less than 60 seconds, a single Russian T-90M tank, the crown jewel of Moscow's army, costing over $5 million each, gets torched to ashes by a homemade Ukrainian drone worth just a few $1,000s. And this isn't some fluke. Reports show Russia has lost more than 100 of these so-called invincible beasts since the invasion began, with dozens wiped out by drones alone in 2025, turning battlefields into graveyards of twisted metal and shattered dreams. Footage of the turret popping off like a champagne cork floods social media, going viral and exposing a harsh truth. Heavy-duty weapons are crumbling against cheap, clever tech. These clips from front lines in Donetsk and Zaporizhia capture the chaos. Smoke billowing, flames erupting, as a once mighty machine becomes a blazing wreck, symbolizing how brute force is getting outsmarted by agility and innovation. But dig deeper, and a bigger question looms. Is this just a bad day on the battlefield, or the beginning of the end for tanks as we know them? This story reveals why this clash is forcing military experts worldwide to rewrite the rules of modern warfare, where speed and smarts trump steel and size. Stick around to see how one explosive moment could reshape global conflicts forever. Russia launched a bold counteroffensive along the Donetsk front lines, sending squads of T-90M Prorив tanks to spearhead the push, while BMP-3 infantry carriers and Grad rocket launchers provided backup fire. This move aimed to punch through Ukrainian strongholds and reclaim vital ground lost during the summer months. Commanders in Moscow viewed the operation as a chance to shatter the ongoing stalemate that had dragged on for too long. The T-90M units rolled out at dawn under a heavy barrage from the Grad systems, which hurled rockets ahead to soften enemy positions and create a path forward. Smoke rose thick from the impacts, mixing with the morning mist, and the tanks advanced in tight formation, their tracks churning up the muddy terrain as they closed in on the first line of defenses. These armored vehicles, promoted heavily by Russian media as nearly unbeatable, featured relict reactive panels that exploded outward to deflect incoming threats, and Shtora-1 jammers designed to confuse guided missiles. Crews inside felt confident as the machines powered ahead, their main guns swiveling to scan for targets while the BMP-3s followed closely, ready to unload troops if needed. The plan relied on speed and overwhelming force. The T-90Ms accelerated across open fields, dodging craters from prior shelling, and their advanced sights picked out distant bunkers through the haze. Artillery continued to pound the area, sending dirt and debris flying, which forced Ukrainian spotters to hunker down and limited their early responses. As the lead T-90M approached a key ridge, its turret rotated smoothly to fire a round that blasted apart a concrete barrier, clearing the way for the group behind. BMP-3 maneuvered to the flanks, their lighter armor allowing quicker turns, and they sprayed machine gun bursts to suppress any movement in the trenches ahead. The Grad launchers reloaded in the rear, unleashing another volley that lit up the sky with trails of flame and hammered the horizon with explosions. This coordinated assault built momentum quickly. The tanks pushed deeper into contested zones, their engines roaring over the din of battle. And for a brief period, it seemed like the breakthrough might succeed without much resistance. Russian tacticians had chosen this sector carefully, knowing the terrain offered some cover from aerial threats. Yet the real edge came from the T-90M's upgrades, including better thermal imaging that pierced through dust clouds to spot hidden foes. One vehicle targeted a suspected anti-tank nest, its cannon booming and sending shockwaves across the field, which scattered wildlife and shook nearby trees. The BMP-3s kept pace, their hatches open for soldiers to scan with binoculars, ensuring no ambushes from the sides disrupted the advance. Meanwhile, Grad rockets adjusted their aim based on radio calls from the front, blanketing approach routes to prevent counter moves and maintain pressure on the defenders. This offensive unfolded amid broader tensions in the region, where control of Donetsk highways meant supply lines could shift dramatically. Seizing these spots would cut off Ukrainian reinforcements and force a retreat from surrounding hills. The T-90M formation split slightly to cover more ground, with some units veering toward a village outskirts while others held the center, their combined firepower creating a wall of destruction that echoed through the valleys. Dust settled from the barrages, revealing scarred earth, and the vehicles pressed on, their silhouettes growing larger against the rising sun as they neared the heart of the enemy setup. Ukrainian forces pulled back on purpose to their trench lines, steering clear of head-on clashes and letting the T-90M tanks roll deeper into deadly zones where strikes could hit hardest. This smart retreat gave defenders time to regroup while the advancing armor exposed itself more with every meter gained. Soldiers hunkered down in dugouts reinforced with sandbags and logs, their eyes fixed on the horizon as Russian vehicles grew closer amid the rumble of engines and distant blasts. Spotters relayed updates through secure channels, ensuring everyone stayed alert without wasting ammo on rush shots. The pullback created a buffer that turned the open ground into a trap, drawing the attackers farther from their support lines and closer to hidden threats. Anti-tank teams fired Stugna P missiles from concealed spots, yet the rounds bounced off the explosive relict layers on the T-90M hulls, detonating harmlessly and leaving the machines unscathed. NLAW launchers joined the effort from elevated positions, sending projectiles streaking through the air. But those too failed to breach the protective barriers that shattered incoming warheads on contact. Defenders watched as the tanks shrugged off the impacts and kept pushing forward, their turrets swinging to return fire that tore into empty foxholes and scattered dirt clouds. This initial resistance tested the enemy's defenses without committing full strength, allowing Ukrainian units to gauge how far the armor could advance before vulnerabilities showed. Commanders noted the pattern quickly, adjusting plans to hold fire until better opportunities arose. Observation posts maintained constant watch from higher ground, linking up with scout drones that hovered above the fray and fed real-time data through the Link 16 network for seamless coordination. These aerial units circled quietly at safe altitudes, their cameras capturing every move of the Russian column as it navigated rough patches and avoided obvious obstacles. Ground teams received updates on screens in their bunkers, plotting the tanks' paths and identifying weak angles for later attacks. This setup kept the defense connected across the sector, turning isolated groups into a unified front that could respond in unison. The drone's feeds showed BMP-3s trailing behind, vulnerable if separated, and helped pinpoint where the Grad barrages had missed key areas. Defenders understood deeply that raw firepower alone would not stop the tanks, but their own speed in charging ahead might seal their fate by stretching supply chains thin and isolating units from quick help. This insight shaped the entire response, focusing on patience rather than panic as the armor committed more deeply to the assault. Troops whispered encouragements in the trenches, gripping weapons tightly while waiting for signals to unleash precise counters. The strategy built tension across the line, with everyone aware that drawing the enemy inward would flip the advantage and turn momentum against the invaders. As minutes ticked by, the Ukrainian positions grew quieter, masking the buildup of forces ready to spring when the moment struck. This silent ambush relied on discipline forged from hard lessons, ensuring the retreat served as bait rather than weakness. A Ukrainian FPV drone squad lay in wait inside the dense forest, each unmanned vehicle loaded with several pounds of explosives and guided by live video feeds from operators hidden nearby. This ambush setup allowed the team to monitor the battlefield without revealing their position, as the small machines stayed powered down until the perfect target appeared. Operators adjusted controls from portable screens, their fingers tense on joysticks while scanning for the lead T-90M that had pushed farthest ahead. The forest provided natural cover with thick foliage blocking radar signals, and the squad timed their launch to coincide with the tank's isolation from its escorts. As the armored beast rumbled closer, the first drone buzzed to life quietly, its propellers whirring softly before it lifted off and darted toward the open field. The initial drone zoomed low over the ground to evade detection, weaving through scattered wreckage and burnt-out vehicles until it locked onto the T-90M's rear section where the engine hummed vulnerably. Upon impact, the blast ripped into the power compartment, sending flames licking out from vents and thick smoke pouring into the air. Yet the massive machine lurched forward erratically without stopping completely. Crew members inside felt the jolt shake the hull, their instruments flickering as systems struggled to compensate. But the tank's momentum carried it onward through the haze. Ukrainian spotters cheered silently from afar, noting how the hit slowed the advance and created confusion among following units. This precise strike exploited the design's weak rear protection, forcing the vehicle to expose more of its flanks as it tried to maintain course amid rising heat. Moments later, the second drone hurtled from the tree line at high speed, angling sharply toward the turret's side, where the autoloader held rows of shells ready for firing. The device plunged into the vulnerable spot with pinpoint accuracy, detonating against the ammunition racks and igniting a fierce internal fire that spread rapidly through confined spaces. Shouts echoed inside the cabin as temperatures soared, but escape proved impossible amid the chaos of melting wires and failing hatches. The explosion built in intensity, with secondary blasts from stored rounds amplifying the destruction and hurling metal fragments skyward. Defenders watched the scene unfold through binoculars, the once dominant tank now twisting under pressure as its structure buckled from within. In under 30 seconds, the costly T-90M transformed into a smoldering heap of twisted steel, its frame engulfed in roaring flames that lit up the surrounding area and sent acrid smoke billowing across the landscape. The rapid sequence left no room for recovery, with the vehicle's advanced features overwhelmed by the simple yet deadly assault from above. Ukrainian forces seized the moment to press their advantage, their morale boosted by the sight of the wreck that symbolized a shift in control. This swift takedown highlighted how agile tactics could dismantle heavy machinery, turning a potential breakthrough into a costly setback for the attackers. The forest edge remained calm after the launches, with operators packing up gear quickly to relocate before retaliation arrived. The crew of the T-90M had no chance to escape the inferno, and Russian soldiers trailing behind lost their key vehicle, causing the entire formation to break apart in confusion. Flames shot high from the wreckage, lighting up the field and forcing nearby troops to scatter as shrapnel rained down. The lead tank's sudden halt created a bottleneck, with BMP-3 carriers slamming on brakes and exposing their sides to incoming fire from hidden positions. Chaos spread quickly through the ranks, as commanders barked orders over radios that crackled with static. But the loss of the main punch left infantry vulnerable without cover. Smoke from the burning hull mixed with dust kicked up by retreating feet, turning the advance into a frantic pullback that left equipment scattered across the dirt. Ukrainian troops launched a swift counterstrike, surging from their trenches to reclaim lost ground and seize the destroyed tank as proof of their victory. Infantry squads moved in waves under mortar support, their boots pounding the earth while they fired rifles at fleeing figures. The push regained key dugouts within minutes, with defenders planting flags on recaptured spots and dragging away usable gear from abandoned packs. Medics tended to minor wounds amid the rush, ensuring the momentum stayed strong as units coordinated via hand signals to flank remaining threats. This rapid shift turned the tide, allowing Ukraine to consolidate their line and prepare for any follow-up attempts from the enemy side. The incident delivered a severe mental shock to Russian units, with accounts revealing that many soldiers refused to board similar vehicles in the days that followed. Whispers of fear rippled through camps, as survivors recounted the horror of watching comrades vanish in a fireball, eroding trust in the machinery they once relied on. Morale dipped sharply across the sector, leading to hesitant patrols and delayed operations that gave opponents more breathing room. Leaders struggled to rally their men, offering reassurances that fell flat against the vivid memory of the blast, and this hesitation weakened overall cohesion in the field. Military watchers from NATO labeled this clash a breaking point for Russia's armored doctrine, highlighting how traditional heavy reliance failed against adaptive foes. Analysts pointed out the flaws in depending on sheer mass, as the event underscored the need for better integration of air defenses and infantry screens. Discussions in alliance briefings emphasized lessons for future training, urging a rethink of tactics that prioritized quantity over versatility. This perspective spread through channels, influencing how Western forces viewed similar conflicts and prompting reviews of their own strategies to avoid such pitfalls. The chain reaction extended beyond the immediate fight, as Ukrainian commanders exploited the gap to fortify nearby hills and set up new observation points. Reinforcements arrived quietly under cover of night, bolstering the front with fresh supplies that ensured sustained pressure. Russian attempts to regroup faltered amid low spirits, with vehicles left idle in rear areas while crews debated risks. The overall dynamic shifted toward defense for the attackers, allowing Ukraine to dictate the pace and turn a single destruction into a broader setback. Observers noted the ripple effects on supply routes, as disrupted convoys slowed resupply efforts and strained logistics further down the line. This evolving situation demonstrated resilience on one side and fragility on the other, shaping the narrative of endurance in prolonged engagements. FPV drones costing just $2,000 to $3,000 can wipe out tanks worth millions, creating a cost gap of $1,000 to $2,000 that flips the script on modern battles. This huge difference shows how cheap tech now rules over pricey hardware on the front lines. Operators craft these small machines in workshops, fitting them with basic cameras and blasts that target weak spots precisely. In the heat of clashes, such tools zoom in fast and hit hard, turning expensive assets into junk without massive spending. Ukrainian teams have honed this approach, using everyday parts to build fleets that swarm and strike, making each mission a smart bet against heavy odds. The shift marks a new era where budget plays second to brains, letting smaller forces punch above their weight and challenge big armies head-on. The core flaw in Russian tanks stems from their autoloader setup, which stores all ammo right under the crew and turns every vehicle into a moving bomb ready to go off. This design choice packs shells in a tight ring below the turret, so any solid hit sparks chain reactions that rip through the inside. Flames spread quick from the storage area, melting controls and trapping people in a hot trap with no easy out. Defenders spot this weakness from afar, aiming strikes to ignite the load and watch the machine self-destruct in seconds. Crews feel the buildup as heat rises and systems fail, but the tight space leaves little room to react before everything blows. This built-in risk comes from old plans that favored compact builds over safety, leaving modern versions open to simple threats that exploit the layout. Leopard 2 and Abrams models separate ammo storage with extra armor plates, giving crews a shot at survival even after tough blows. These Western designs tuck rounds in back compartments behind blast doors, so explosions vent outward and spare the people inside. Hits land hard, but often let operators bail out and fight another day, keeping units intact longer. Thick layers shield vital parts, absorbing shocks that would doom other builds, and this setup boosts confidence on risky pushes. Soldiers in these rides know the gear has their back, allowing bolder moves without constant fear of total loss. The focus on protection stems from lessons in crew value, making each tank a tough nut that holds up under fire and sustains the push. Russia pays a steep price for its doctrine of cheap, fast, and plenty in an age where data streams and drones call the shots on the field. This old mindset churns out light vehicles in bulk for quick swarms, but they crumble against smart eyes in the sky that track and target flaws. Battlefields now pulse with info from overhead scouts, feeding strikes that outpace ground speed and overwhelm numbers. Moscow's push for volume leaves gaps in defense, as rushed builds skip key shields and invite easy kills from above. Ukraine adapts by blending tech with grit, turning data into deadly hits that erode the foe's edge. The clash reveals a tipping point, where endless supply meets endless smarts, and the side with better info wins the day. Global watchers see this as a wake-up call, urging shifts toward hybrid forces that mix old steel with new tools to stay ahead. The destruction of the T-90M didn't just burn through steel. It burned through Russia's faith in traditional mechanized warfare. A $2,000 drone tearing apart a $5 million tank has become the image of a new era where brains defeat bulk and speed outplays armor. What once defined power, noise, size, and metal now gives way to silence, precision, and code. Ukraine's use of low-cost FPV drones has redrawn the rules of combat. Battles are no longer decided by how many tanks a nation builds, but by how fast its soldiers can see, think, and strike. The war has proven that in a world ruled by sensors and signals, data is deadlier than any shell. But this victory also opens a bigger question. If cheap drones can crush a tank column today, what happens tomorrow when AI learns to fight without humans at the controls? Will the battlefield belong to machines that choose their own targets, or to commanders who learn how to control them first? Drop your thoughts below. Has the age of tanks truly ended? Or are they waiting to return under a new design? For more clear maps, sharp analysis, and breaking frontline stories, like, share, and subscribe to Military Force.